Hi, welcome back. I am Jackie and I have got a June reading wrap up for you. I read 9 books over the course of July, a little bit of everything: romance, thriller, nonfiction, mystery, all kinds of stuff. So let's jump in. So these are my stats for the month of July. I read 9 books. A few different genres here. So we've got thriller, romance, fiction, nonfiction, mystery. I did read more romance this month actually. My go-to genre has been the thriller mystery, but definitely leaned heavier on the romance side. And all were physical books except for one. I did check out a good chunk of them from the library this month actually versus ones that I owned that were on my TBR. And almost half and half for authors that I had read before or authors that were new to me. So this is a wrap up for the month of July. My first book that I read for the month of July was actually a Colleen Hoover book, Verity. This I had seen all over, recommended quite a bit. I was on the edge of my seat as I was reading this book. There are a couple twists, and I did guess one of the twists, or I saw it coming, I guess. The other one I did not. Make sure you read absolutely every page of this book. This is technically a thriller. We all know Colleen Hoover in her writing, just being able to read it very easily. This I read in 2 days. I had to know how it ended. It was a fantastic read. Really a palate cleanser from what I had been reading in June. So I loved that I was able to get through this quickly and enjoyed it. I rated this book 4.5 stars out of 5. I just absolutely loved it. So easy to read her books. So that is my first one with Colleen Hoover. Next, I decided to focus a little bit more on my physical TBR that I had, and I came across this book. This is Sam's Letters to Jennifer by James Patterson. I know James Patterson because my grandma loves him for all of his mystery books. So I was not expecting to come across him for a romance book. Actually, this is what it was. This was such an easy read, great summer read. I loved reading it during the summer. It takes place on a lake, and once I finished this, I looked up that lake. I wanted to see what it was all about. I wanted to see pictures. I was looking for the scenes that were so well painted in this book. I read this in 1 day, and I wanted to know how it ended. So you first learn about the woman Jennifer and what she's going through in her life, and that she has these letters that her grandma wrote her, and she is starting to read those letters and learn a little bit more about her grandma's life while her life is unfolding during this summer as she's figuring some things out. So I rated this one 4 stars. I thought it was a really easy read. I enjoyed it. I contemplated for a little while if I wanted to pick up more books by him that were not the my grandma's style of book, I guess. I love mystery, I love thrillers, but this was really nice to have. Romance, definitely wonderful. Next, another Colleen Hoover book. This was on my physical TBR. I've had this for months. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. And until recently, I actually had a shelf sitting on my bedroom, and this one was always catching my eye over and over and over again. Ugly Love is about Tate Collins. She is a nurse, and she recently moved in with her brother in San Francisco. And she meets this guy the first night that she moves into her brother's apartment in San Francisco. And this is talking about an agreement or an arrangement that the two have, her and this other guy. And it's very interesting how it unfolds. It is an emotional roller coaster. It follows 2 points of view. It follows that guy, Miles, And then it also follows Tate as well, which is the main character that you get to know right away. I feel like I was able to figure out how it ended right away because it's from a woman's perspective, and I know how I would have handled that, so it was very interesting in that way. This was a really quick read, so easy to read her writing. I can't just stress that enough, especially for some of the other books that I have that I read for the month of July. Some of them took a lot of brain power and were a little bit slower because you really had to pay attention to so many of the details. Colleen Hoover, you can just whip right through a book, and it's so satisfying to be able to get through a book. Next was The Rosie Effect by Garame Simison. Probably said that so wrong. This is the second book in a series. The first one is The Rosie Project. It follows you follow a man named Don Tillman, and you learn a little bit about his life. The Rosie Effect is actually when he is married, and you are following him in the first, I think it's year or two, it might be first year of his marriage, and they have some hurdles that they have to overcome, and Don Tillman is a unique individual. I absolutely loved his point of view. I actually found myself, so he talks in a very technical way, and I found that while I was reading this book and really the series, that even at work, I would write my emails more in a technical way, or I would interact with my peers or my coworkers in a more technical way. It really rubbed off on me, and I absolutely loved his point of view, and that is one reason why I read the second book in the series. The first one actually is The Rosie Project. I picked this one up in June, and I read this one in June from Goodwill, actually. I'll go through Goodwill and take up my Goodreads app and see what the ratings are and what type of book it is. And so I picked this one up on a whim, and I really liked it. So I then went for The Rosie Effect and liked that as well. This one I rated, let's see, The Rosie Effect I rated 4 stars. I liked it enough to be able to pick up the next book in the series, which was actually The Rosie Result. By this time that I had read this book, I'm still liking to follow Don Tillman. This was now 10 years later after him and Rosie have been married, and they have a son, or rather the son is 10 years old, and it was very interesting to hear the obstacles and how the obstacles that the son had and how they decided to come together and help the son with those obstacles. By the time that I was reading this book, though, I was eager to get into other books. This I rated 4 stars. I did like it. I loved the series. I like Don Tillman. I really liked following him, but I'm such a mood reader, and I was actually ready to start reading something else. So I checked this out from the library, actually, and I'm like, you know what? I've got it checked out. I'm just gonna finish it. I did feel towards the end that I was just really ready to be done, but the whole series was so good. I actually do recommend this. It is fiction. There is no mystery. There is no specific plot. Typically, I wouldn't have liked these type of books where there's not something you have to figure out, or there's not people falling in love or something like that. Well, maybe this first one, but I really did enjoy the main character in this series, and that was one reason why I loved it so much. After The Rosie Result, I read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. This one I had seen recommended. This ended up being a good book, but boy, oh boy, the first 100, maybe 150 pages were really difficult to get through. You follow 2 points of view. You follow Leon and Tiffy. You follow the both of them, so it goes back and forth in point of view. And they actually share the same apartment, the same flat, but they've never met. One uses it during the day and one uses it during the night because they have completely opposite shifts for their work, and you learn a little bit about them, and they learn a little bit about each other as they are in their apartment, looking around and kind of getting to know each other through their belongings, and they start passing post-it notes back and forth and answering each other while they're at the apartment separately. So it ended up being a really great book. I rated this a 3.5 because it took so long to be able to get into the book. Towards the second half of the book, I was absolutely eating it up. I really loved it. But the first half of the book was really hard to get into, laying so much foundation. Some of the characters seemed a little bit odd at first. And then also during Leon's sections, he writes in a very interesting way. At first, when I was reading a couple of his sections, I really thought that the author maybe wasn't as skilled in being able to write properly, but no, when you would read Tiffy's sections, it was perfect. And then in Leon's, it was just grammatically incorrect. So I don't know why they decided to do that. It was definitely very interesting. I would not recommend writing a book like that. I did look up the reviews on Goodreads, and that deterred so many people actually from finishing the book. I do know another lady that I follow here on YouTube, and she actually stopped reading it because of that as well. She DNF'd it. So I would give it a chance. It does have a good storyline. It was very interesting. There's another character that comes into play that really screws up things. So that was interesting to read, but the way that it's written is definitely off-putting, and I can see why a lot of people don't finish it or they don't like it. So keep going, you'll end up liking it. And yeah, that's Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. The next book that I read, no surprise, was the Colleen Hoover. This one's actually from the library as well, very tattered up. It is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This one will tear your heart out. Oh my gosh. Involve a child and a mom who is trying to reconnect with that child. And oh gosh, it just pulled at my heartstrings. This was one of the best books that I read throughout the month. I was laughing, I was crying during this book. I loved the two main characters in this book. Again, you're following multiple people. Kenna is this woman that actually recently got out of jail, and she is trying to reconnect with her daughter. And then you're also following, what is the guy's name? It's not, oh, it's Ledger. He actually lives in this town that she goes back to from before she went to jail, and the two of them interacting. So good as it's unfolding, and you're really rooting for various people in the book, and you really understand the mindset that everyone has. No one's right, no one's wrong. It's just really an interesting set of circumstances that occur and how they try and get through that. This is one that I definitely stayed up too late reading because I was so pulled in. I feel like I really knew these people that I was reading this book. So definitely a 5-star read for me for the month of July. Next, I listened to this audiobook. It is nonfiction, actually. Most of the audiobooks I think that I listened to lately are nonfiction. It is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it is a lot about trauma that you go through at any really point time in your life, and how your body is keeping the score, how it affects you on a cellular level, on your mind, so many different ways. I actually have a family member who I wanted to learn a little bit more about, so I started reading this book. And I learned so much more. Like I mentioned, my kiddos, I learned more about how me as a mom, that I can impact them, good, bad, indifferent, right, all of those types of things through this book. It is very heavy, and because of that, I actually decided to stop halfway through and then pick it up at a later time. I learned so much from it, but some of the topics were really heavy, so I needed to take a little bit of a break from it. So I'll probably finish the rest of that, I don't know, maybe in a month or two, once I take a little bit of a breather. I was tandem reading to that while I had some other books here, but I made it about halfway through. I like the book. It is definitely informative. It's one that you'll need to listen to so many times because it can get really scientific, and being able to absorb all that information, especially if you're wanting to learn and retain that information, it's one thing to listen to, but another thing to really try and learn from it. So yeah, that was interesting. Definitely recommend it if you're trying to understand someone that has had some trauma in their lives and how they live with that on a day-to-day basis. Not necessarily how they cope or anything like that, but really how it affects them. So insightful, so interesting, and a lot to learn from that book. Okay, the last book of the month that I read for the month of July is, I'm not sure if you've seen this one. It is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. So good. If I could rate this 6 stars, 7 stars, 1,000,000 stars, I would rate this. It was so interesting. So technically this is a mystery. It's not a thriller. There's nothing scary happening. I mean, you are trying to figure out something specific, but I mean, you're not on the edge of your seat or scared about anything under your bed or anything like that. You're learning about a family, the Cunninghams, I think it is. Gosh, what are they? What are they called? Yeah, the Cunninghams. And you will learn a little bit how they've all killed someone, but you're trying to figure out something specific. There has been an event and you're trying to uncover that. What makes this book so good is the author and how he chose to write this book, Benjamin Stevenson. So he wrote it in a way, like if you've ever seen the show The Office, where they break the fourth wall every now and then and they'll like look at the camera, or they will talk directly to the camera or explain something. That's kind of what he does in this book. So he's talking to you directly as the reader, which is cool in the way that he does it. So he is writing from the perspective of Ernest Cunningham. And Ernest Cunningham is someone that helps people write crime novels. And so he is an author in the book, and they are trying to figure out a crime. And so he utilizes his day job, his expertise about writing crime novels to understand how to uncover and solve a crime that is happening. So very interesting. He has some rules in the beginning of his book that he utilizes when writing a crime novel. You'll follow these rules. So he brings that up every now and then. He will talk directly to you to say, I told you this and I wasn't lying. This is what happened. Because of that, it was so great. I actually do want to, I feel like I want to reread this book right away, because I know he left so many clues. He'll actually tell you that about halfway through, he said, if you take everyone's name in the book, is it an Enneagram? What did he say it was? Anyway, where you take all the letters of someone's name and it spells out a word. I chose not to look that far into it because I didn't want to spoil it for myself. Towards the end, it definitely gets uncovered, but I have a feeling that the first time reading it, there were so many clues that I did not pick up on that he is intentionally leaving there for you. Just so good, so amazing. Definitely read this book, even if you don't like mysteries, even if it's not your thing. There's nothing like super gory that you have to worry about. You're not going to be scared reading this book or anything like that. It was so good. I loved the way that he wrote this book, the style that he chose. I actually do want to go back and read some of the other books that he has written. So this was definitely a 5-star read. Like I said, 6 stars, 7 stars. If I could give it more stars, I definitely would. This will be a reread that I take a peek at, maybe in the fall when it's a little bit cozy, because they are on, actually maybe in the winter, they are on a mountain and there's a snowstorm. So yeah, very cool to listen to, or very cool to read. Okay, so that is my July wrap up. 9 books total. I have some books that I'm really looking forward to August. I've started checking out a lot of books actually from the library because I've been obsessed with reading lately, and I just really don't want to spend $20 or $30 per book. So it's been working out really well. It's been kind of nice because that has been determining which books I will read at what time during the month. Also, when I check out a book, it's for 21 days. And so, I mean, really it wouldn't take me any book 21 days to get through. So I can definitely mix it up and keep them for these wrap-ups. So I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, definitely let me know down below what your favorite was. If you have any recommendations for future months, definitely let me know. Alrighty. Have a good month, you guys, and I'll see you later.